So, hello and welcome to this episode of the Angel Rated Show. I'm Angela Bryant, and with me today I have Breanna Gunn. Breanna Gunn is a messaging and funnel specialist working with business owners and entrepreneurs to create messaging and processes that inspire loyalty, momentum, and action that leverages trust, authenticity, and profitability. Which sounds like something we could all need in this world. So, Breanna, welcome to the show. Do you want to just
Thank you
start
for having
by,
me.
yeah, lovely to have you here. Just let us know, tell us a bit more about who you are.
Sure. So it's nice to meet everyone here that's listening to the podcast. I'm Brea Gunn of Breanna Gunn Enterprises. I'm a business system strategist and content marketer. And I found that the words we use and the language that we use is far more important than anything else in our marketing. And so I'm really passionate about helping the language that you put out into the world be the best it can be and helps to build the relationship and do the heavy lifting of getting those people in the door in your world so that you can turn them into clients.
Sounds fab. So tell us about your story. Tell us how your business came about and why you
Oh,
started
that's
it.
a fun story. So I actually went to school for pre-law. I was planning on getting my law degree and I was going to be an attorney. And I went to work for a law firm while I was in school and realized very quickly that attorneys don't do the digging and the fun stuff. They don't get the bad guy. They just file the paperwork. And that didn't sound fun to me. I wanted to be the one doing the research and writing the documents and doing all of the heavy lifting. And so I scrapped the idea to go to law school, and then I got pregnant, and I realized very quickly that the stress of working at a divorce firm was not something that was going to coincide well with a new family. And I was like, I'll take maternity leave and then I'll figure it out. And my mom found an article in Real Simple, had a website called Hire My Mom, and I went on there and found a gig working for a baby sleep site and a wedding site, and I started doing content and copy for them and checking email and just anything they wanted. I said yes because I didn't know what I didn't know, and I wanted to make myself invaluable. And so I kept saying yes when they asked, and we launched multiple programs together, made them lots and lots of money. And I had so much fun that I wanted to do more of that. So I expanded my business to include launching and more copywriting, launch copy. And I've been doing it ever since.
And your background was in sales, was it before that? I think I read.
Yeah, before that, I actually sold cars and cell phones and coffee and all kinds of things. And sales sucks my energy. It's one of those things I'm good at, but it's exhausting. I'm sure you have those skills where you're like, I can totally do this, but I'm going to need a nap. And that was sales for me. It was I was very very good at it. I could totally, I could put you in a car you didn't want to drive home and you'd be thrilled with it. And but it was exhausting, and it was very humbling to realize that even though I was so good at it, it kind of wore me down. And so now I get to focus on sales that help people, and I get to help my clients and the people that are in my world create better language so the sales process is more organic and easier and less stressful.
Yeah, it's definitely the same skills, but used in a very different way. And
Yes.
yeah, that can be really helpful. So tell us a bit
Mhm.
more about sort of that why. You sort of said about how you started your business, but what's the sort of passion behind it? What do you really want to create with your business?
That's a hard question. So I don't have a big overarching why. At least I don't think I do. My why is so that I can be home with my kids, so that I can help more people, and so that I can go to Disney World whenever I want. For lack of,
Love
to be
it.
completely honest, I don't have this big esoteric, my why is I want to help a million. Nope. I really just want to improve the lives of the people that I touch and be able to spend time with my kids.
But even that, I mean, that's enough. Improving the
Mhm.
lives of the people that you work with is a great thing to want to create with your business. So I assume that that probably also answers the question about whether you have a sort of vision for your business about where you want it to head. I assume is it would
Yeah.
it be fair to say that that's more keeping it I don't know. You answer it.
So I think that what keeps me going is I love my clients. I love the people I work with. I love seeing their transformation. I just had a client who launched, and it was a rocky launch. Launches right now are doing very weird things. Their people have always waited until the last minute, but they're waiting until like the 19th hour, or the 23rd hour to enroll. We had one enrollment and then nothing for a week. And then we got three enrollments and then nothing for a week. And then, but we ended up with 15 people and two more who wanted in late. Which, those numbers sound small to people, but when you're talking about a program that's, $3,000 to $5,000 a pop, that's not anything to sneeze at. And it's seeing the process and figuring out how to make it more efficient, how to replicate it in a way that's less work for the whole team, and how to leverage the messaging and the marketing that's going out to the world so that people don't want to wait till the last minute. They want to get in sooner. They want to um, come in and hang out. And that's really what drives me. Is it's almost like solving a puzzle. Like, you have all of the edge pieces and some of the middles put together, but you have to figure out where all the other pieces fit so that it all works well, like a puzzle. I hope that made sense.
It does, and I love puzzles, so it makes perfect sense. And what,
Yay!
in terms of, I know you're obviously very focused on sort of close to home issues to you. Are there any issues in the bigger, wider world that you're passionate about, things that you would want to support in the future or that you do support?
I do a lot. I donate a lot of money to women's shelters. I was it's not something I talk about very often. I was in a really bad marriage and he was very abusive, and I thankfully had a place to go. My parents were incredibly supportive. They got me out. But there are so many people out there who don't have that support. And so I'm very passionate about donating money, time, clothing. All of our baby items went to the local battered women's shelter, because a lot of times when you leave a situation like that, you don't have anything and it's not safe for you to go back and get it. So that's something that's really it's a huge passion of mine. I'd like to donate more money and more of me. So as I scale my business, that's a I'm all for building wells in countries that don't have water, and building churches and schools, but I want to affect more change closer to home, because those are the people that I see every day. You never know walking down the street who's going home to a shelter and not to a house or an apartment. So that's what I like to support.
Absolutely. And I think it's really interesting for me personally when I'm looking at, which business to buy from, and if you've got a range of different people offering similar services, really understanding a bit more about what drives them and where your money's going and what it's being used to support is something that's important to me, just to understand what people are, what drives people and what's important to them. So thank you for sharing that. I know, you said it's not something you talk about that often, so that's very kind of you to share that. And
Yeah.
is there anything, tell us a bit more about almost your personal values. So how do you run your life? What are your, what's your big worldview? How do you go about living?
I try really hard to live by the golden rule and do unto others. I actually had a quote competitor, who she's another copywriter. She's a really skilled copywriter. She has a team, and she was looking for additional copywriters for her team. And I happen to have two copywriters who are looking for work on my team. Like, I'm one of their clients and they're looking for additional clients. So I messaged her. I'm like, if you're still looking for copywriters, I have some fantastic people. And she couldn't believe that I would share my secret weapon with her. And I don't believe in competition. I think there's enough room for everybody. And, I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I knew my favorite people in the world, the people that I depend on, that I rely on, are looking for clients and I didn't help them. And so I try very hard to approach every sales call, every getting to know you call, as if there's a way I can serve. Even if that's not hiring me, even if that's not working with me, it's very much about service and serving others and making sure that the people in my community, the people that I am surrounded with, have the ability to grow and scale their businesses as well, because there's enough business out there for everybody, and it's just finding the right people. And so I think on a larger scale, I think more of us need to have that attitude of, spreading it around.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think we all come at this from this mindset of competition in the past, or especially from corporate backgrounds or different places, whereas it feels like there's so much more collaboration and community that we can, work with, and that will benefit everyone.
Well, it's like your site, Angel Rated. It's such a great, like you do so much good by having all of those resources in one place, because you can find the testimonials, you can find the pricing, you can find all the things you need right there, and it's such a good resource, and there's nothing else like it out there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So what message would you like to impart to people about copywriting, about how they, write what they're working on and how they share their message? What would you like people to sort of go away with in terms of how you work?
That's a really good question. So if your copy is something you're struggling with, find a good copywriter. Even if it's not me, go find someone you jive with that feels good and aligned with your voice, and talk to them. They may not be a good fit, but they will probably have some suggestions for you, if they're worth their weight, that can help you improve your writing. And always write from the heart. If you're going to do your own copy, make sure it's authentic, make sure it's going to resonate with the people that you want to impact, and stop worrying so much about making the sale and worry more about building the relationship, because the relationship will drive the sale. Because at the end of the day, friends buy from friends. And if you make more friends, you make more money.
Great advice. Great advice. We were talking just before we hit record around that sort of relationship building, and that's obviously something that's deeply important to you, about how people build community and build relationships with the people around them, with clients, with potential clients, with everyone they work with. Is there anything else you'd want to add about that?
I think that we need to get away from worrying about where our next sale is going to come from, and start worrying more about the impact that we have on the people around us. Because if we worried more about the impact that we have and leaving the world a better place than we found it, we would be so much happier.
Great advice. So in terms of, you just mentioned leaving the world a better place than you found it. What are there other principles or beliefs or things that you live your life by, or things that make you angry? What sort of are your triggers in your broader worldview?
Oh, I get really frustrated by people who are adamant that my system works for everyone, because that's a lie. I am not for everyone. There is no person on the planet that is literally for everyone. Stop trying to serve everyone. Serve the people who actually want to hear what you have to say, and screw the rest, for lack of a better term. But stop promoting yourself as if you're God's answer to the world, because you're not. There are people out there that I don't jive with. There are people listening to this podcast who are like, oh my God, she's so full of herself, and they don't want to hear anything more from me. And that's completely fine. You're not my people, and that's okay. And I wish you well. The people who resonate will reach out and connect with me, and we will have a great conversation. And sometimes it takes more than one conversation to create a client or curate that relationship. And don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think so many people are like, oh, well, they're not going to pay me, I'm moving on. You never know where your next client is going to come from. You never know where your next great idea or collaboration is going to come from. So curating relationships really matters, and it's what allows you to scale your business rapidly. Because like, I never would have met you if I hadn't come across you in that podcast group and found Angel Rated and been like floored by what you're doing. And it's just so cool. But there's literally no reason for us to cross paths otherwise. But you took the time, and I took the time to actually curate a relationship, and here we are. I'm getting to reach people I wouldn't have reached if I hadn't met you. But if I had blown you off and been like, oh, that's not for me, we wouldn't be here. And so I think being open to new experiences and being open to allowing help in is the fastest way to get to where you want to go.
It's that idea that you just never know where something's going to lead, and you're just saying yes to that opportunity, and as you said, allowing people in, allowing things in, building those, nurturing those relationships. Really, you just never know what's going to come of it, or who's listening, who you're going to find.
Insane. Yeah. You know, I had a conversation earlier this morning with a gal who I was not planning on pitching at all. Like, we were both in a very similar space. Turns out she's only been in business for 6 months and she's looking for someone to help her find clients. And that's one of the services I provide. And so we had to stop the call, but she was like, can I book another 30 minutes on your calendar? Because I really want to talk about what working with you would look like. Totally unexpected. But it was because I offered her like real advice and do this instead of what you're doing and see what happens and come back to me and let me know. And she's like, I can't believe you're telling me this for free. And I'm like, why wouldn't I? You know, you never know.
You do never know. That's great point. So before we start thinking about wrapping up, I just want to, a few more questions just to find out a bit more about you. You, on your website, I was having a look through some of the info about you, and it talked about roller derbies. Now, in the UK, that means nothing to me. I'm picturing roller skates. Am I on the right line? Okay. What's the derby part of it? Tell me more.
So if you picture like horse racing, but with people on a circular track that chase each other and try to score points.
Okay.
On roller skates.
Sounds dangerous and mad. Yes.
It's basically like rugby on skates on a track.
Amazing. And this is something you do now or that you used to do?
I have not actually played since the pandemic. I like I was telling my husband the other day, I think that means I'm officially retired from playing derby. But I just bought a pair of new skates for skating outside with my kids, and I will forever be a huge supporter of roller derby. I think it's a fantastic outlet for women and men. It's a great community of people. I've met people from all different countries and states, and just the most fantastic and supportive humans you've ever met. Also very scary if you happen to be in their way.
I love it. I love finding out about different things on different sides of the Atlantic, and what you do for fun. It's brilliant. So do you want to wrap up and just tell listeners more about where they can find you, what you offer, and what your business and services are?
Absolutely. So if you are looking for me, you can find me on social media at the Breanna Gunn. I offer copywriting and marketing consulting services. If that's something you're interested in, shoot me a message on Instagram or LinkedIn, and we can definitely connect there. Or you can find me on Angel Rated, and some of my courses are on there. You can go get started there as well.
Fab. Well, we'll make sure we add all that information to the show notes so that people can find that information. So thank you ever so much for joining us, Breanna.
Thank you.
The show notes No, you're very welcome. So the show notes from this episode will be at angelrated.com/podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, obviously I'd love you to subscribe to the show and leave a review on your favourite podcast platform. And don't forget to share this episode with all your online business friends. Thank you ever so much.